go. It's official. We're recording. Shay,
All right. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good, man. Good to hear
Uh,
from you, Pablo.
I know. Dude, it was an honor. It was a pleasure meeting you
That was
a
so
few
fun.
weeks
Yeah,
ago.
dude. For sure. Zach's such a good, old friend of mine. And anybody I've ever met through him is just super chill and super rad. So
Hey, that type of energy attracts that type of energy, and
it's
Zach
so true.
Zach Large is awesome.
It's so true. And it's really nice to have, it's nice to have friends like that. And I think especially like living in New York, you meet so many people who are kind of putting on airs or like they're sort of playing a character
Yep.
type person that you really like when you get to hang with somebody who just is truly themselves, just a rad energy and a truly chill dude with, like people who got no ulterior motives. They're not trying to play a part in nothing. They're just rad folks. I crave that kind
Oh,
of hangout, because a lot of folks are not like that. You find,
oh, I completely agree. But before we get into that, will you do me a favor and
yeah,
introduce
yeah.
yourself to the audience?
My name's Seagh Mulligan. I'm originally from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm a tattooer. I've been tattooing for about 10 years now. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to tell.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
How you pronounce it Shay, but you spell it I don't know,
Yeah,
SEC say.
it's Seagh. It's like the old Gaelic spelling, like the ancient Irish way of spelling it. My last
Oh.
name is Mulligan. And I have like a pretty like cartoon Irish name. It's Shay Cavan Patrick Mulligan. It's like over the top Irish. I had one sibling. Her name is Siobhan, and her name was spelled Siobhan. Same ancient like Irish spelling of the name. But yeah, I think it's funny. Like I used to hate it when I was a kid. Now I think it's kind of cool. I think it's interesting.
Well,
Um,
that's a very common thing, common theme that I've noticed, especially from some of the people that I've talked to had like a slightly different spelling of a word or who are foreigners. When they're growing up with it, they kind of hate it because roll call, right? Every day or every year when you get a new teacher or substitute teacher or new friends, new school, whatever it may be, that name all of a sudden becomes not normal, I guess, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
I did always kind of wonder that when I was in school because it would always stump every teacher every year. But I'd be like, why don't you just say Mulligan? Mulligan is like phonetic as
Right.
fuck. Like just skip the Shay. I'm probably the only dude named Mulligan in here, so you could just say that. Um, yeah, but I think having a name that's spelled differently or is like a little different like that, it can be a little bit of a burden sometimes because I kind of think like it always makes the first time you introduce yourself or the first time someone has to read your name off a page, it makes it like a little like confusing right there at the outset,
Mm-hmm.
which I think sometimes is not always awesome, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, fuck it. Like if I have to correct
No, it
somebody, the
makes
first,
you it makes you more unique. It makes you stand
yeah,
out. It makes you more memorable.
yeah, you just find you just have to correct somebody the first time you meet them, which I classically like loathe doing shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's all good. I feel like if I ever have a kid, I'll name him like Dave, just so that he doesn't have to do that, or Mike or
As
something.
basic as possible.
Oh my God, yeah, hell yeah,
So,
Jeff,
yeah, hello, Jeff. One F or
Jeff,
two Fs?
just one F, man, just for
Oh
brevity's sake,
man,
just for like efficiency's sake, lower the footprint,
that's
lowering
amazing.
the.
So the other question I had for you, and I know we're gonna get into this and everything, but
Oh yeah.
how many tattoos do you have?
I don't know. I haven't done a count in like a long time. Probably, I usually say I think I can estimate in hours more or less. I think I have like I don't know, like 300 hours worth of tattooing, somewhere around there.
Three
It's like,
hundred hours.
it's like somewhere in there. I'm almost completely done with my bodysuit. which I think I've chosen to like, and I didn't know this, but it seems like I've got more than most. I feel like people get more tattoos in the South. Like bodysuits down there are more dense. People
Yes.
get more work, where up here people are a little more conservative about them. Classically, like the New York style kind of lends itself to like a little more like space and like breathing room between tattoos, where like growing up in the culture in the South, like everybody wants to get like blasted head to toe. So that's kind of the format that I went with. I always kind of jokingly call it like the 2000s metalcore format, because it very much is like high color, crazy, like custom tattoo ideas that are like super weird and completely suited out, neck, hands, all that shit.
No,
So it's a long road though.
no, I mean, if somebody were to just show me a picture of you versus the person that I've met and got to know, it's like completely night and day. Because yeah, you are 100% covered, and
Yep.
that's why I was like, man, I wonder how many he has.
Oh yeah.
But man, yeah. So I did the math: 300 hours. That's about 12 and a half days.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say something like that. Like I probably got tattooed once a week for like a few years, once every 2 weeks for sure. That's the thing, is like I talk to a lot of people and I work on a lot of people that want to get like a significant collection and a good amount of coverage. And I try to tell them, like, really honestly, if you are trying to work on a tattoo collection, I need to see you more than once or twice a year.
Right, right.
That won't even make a dent in it. I mean, like, I feel like dedicated collectors go once a month at least, um, which is a lot. It's a lot to ask, man. We're lucky to get to do what we do, because it hurts, it's expensive. But luckily, like, it's people really care about it, and it really resonates with a lot of folks. It resonates a lot with me, and I really, I love tattooing so much, and I was so fortunate to find something that I'm so passionate about and feel so strongly about. I'm very lucky to get to do it, because it is a very sort of niche thing, and like a very sort of novelty, like luxury accessory thing. It's non-essential. It's like the most non-essential thing you could ever imagine, which
Right, right. But
I'm
but but
cool
at the
with.
same time, well, one, yeah, you are very lucky, right? Actually, when me and one of my friends were talking the other day about jobs, right, and how rare it is to meet people that are actually doing something that they're passionate about.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
my God.
it's very rare. So kudos to you, man. That's awesome that you get to do that. But then the other question that I have for you then is, did you start tattooing because you liked tattoos, or like what? How did it all come about?
Man, I was really drawn to tattooing at like such a young age. Like, seriously, I remember watching, there was this like MSNBC documentary on tattoo, on specifically New York tattooing, that came out in the 90s when I was like probably 10 or 11. And I remember just like watching it on TV with my buddy, and being like, oh man, this is it. Like, this is what's cool to me, And even younger, when I'd watch like music videos and people have a lot of tattoos, and I'd be like, man, that's so sick to me. Like, even at 5 years old, I would see like metal music videos, people be like, like Rob Zombie, like all those like old classic, like early 90s music videos, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody had like lots of tattoos, and you're like, man, that's cool. Like that was like always what I thought was really cool, and I learned a lot by getting tattooed, but I always kind of like was drawn to it from such an early age, I think,
Well, that's
but it
funny
was kind
because
of.
go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny that you had that impression, because for me, whenever I would see a rock artist or anybody on TV with a tattoo, for me, I associated that with like, stardom or like Hollywood, not like,
Yeah.
oh, us everyday people can go get one.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was never, growing up in East Tennessee, like where it's like very much the Bible Belt. It was presented to me as like this aberrant behavior, like my family My family is like, while they're like progressive, like I'd say like politically progressive, they're still like kind of like conservative in lifestyle. And so
Mm-hmm.
they were like pretty anti-tattoo. And certainly my extended family, who's like pretty country and pretty religious, they were like very disgusted by it. And it was never really, it was the thing that I was into, but it was, we're talking about the early 90s where like people are scared shitless of like metal, and like it's like satanic panic is like in the news, and like all this,
Right.
anything that was like rock and roll was like scared the shit out of like everybody who was either like a baby boomer or like their parents or grandparents, you know what I mean? Like it was just this like disgusting thing that, so from their perspective, like they would have done anything for me to do something else, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was never presented to me, although I knew it was like, I knew that I was into it even at that young age. It was never presented to me like they wanted me to be like a geologist or something, you know what I mean? Like obviously like everybody wants their kid to like do something that is going to be very stable, and I think at that bracket like they didn't see like the side of it that like I saw, where I'm like, no, these artists are like making a ton of money and like making a mark in a big way and like doing something that's really magical for people. Like they couldn't see the positives of it because it's like this religiously, like religious moralistic kind of justification of damning something just because it's like out of the
Yeah.
ordinary, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
so
absolutely.
yeah.
Even my parents were always like, "Well, you either got to be a doctor or a lawyer," and that's probably why they hate me today, because I am
Oh
neither.
my god. you know I can relate. I can definitely relate. Like I didn't listen to anybody, and I'm so thankful that I didn't. And I think about it all the time, and I think about all the advice I was given by my family and like every teacher ever, and literally like every single person ever, like, um I probably had a few people who were like, yo, you should do tattoos, but everybody else was like, oh my god, you're crazy for wanting to do that, or like, you could, like, oh my god, like whatever. And I never listened to anybody, and now I'm so relieved. I'm like, so like, oh my god, I'm so thankful that I just like stuck to what I knew I wanted to do and didn't listen to anybody about it for the most part.
No, yeah, especially, yeah. I mean, it's not like you were out there, doing heroin or something. Everyone's like, "Stop," and you're like, "No, you know what? I'm gonna do what I want."
Exactly. Yeah,
You were
exactly.
actually
Like,
following an art and something that actually takes a lot of skill.
hell yeah. And a lot of time, and there's a lot of pressure. And, it's just, I don't think they, and, nowadays, my family is like, they're like surprised and like proud of me. I think like definitely I'm sort of the most successful of my generation of my family anyway,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like, um, man, really being like, I don't ever need, I don't, I don't seek my family's approval in a way where like they don't cut me a check ever. I don't ever need anything from them. I don't like look. I'm not like waiting for some like approval from them or whatever. It's
Right, right.
very nice to be like very much on my own with it. As far as like, you know, um,
No,
everybody else is still sort of living under the wings of our parents, where I kind of just have gotten to do my own thing super hard, and now they're stoked. Now they're like, oh, this is what you were doing, like this is what you were after. It's like, yeah,
right,
this is
right.
sick. Like now that they've seen like how it's worked out for me, kind of, they're like, oh, okay, tattoos,
We
okay,
get it
those kind
now.
of tattoos, we get it. Yeah, totally. Where like I think they just thought that I don't know what I'm not even going to speculate what I
No, I
guess
mean,
they thought.
trust me. Same thing with my family. They're a little bit more, socially conservative. I mean, progressive as fuck. But, um, yeah. I mean, when I told them that I was going to study economics, they're like, "Oh, what are you going to do? Sell cars? Is that really what you want to do with your life?" And I'm like,
Which is
"Man."
awesome. Like, I don't know if they ever met a car salesman. Like, car salesmen like make money and like to party.
Yeah, well, I don't
For
think that that's what they
sure.
really wanted from me. They wanted me to be like a doctor or something, a little bit more quote unquote professional, I guess.
Oh, of
But
course.
once oh
Yeah.
yeah, but then once I graduate and I start working, and then all of a sudden they see that I'm as independent as anybody in my family has ever been, they're like, "Oh man, we're so proud of you. We knew you could do it." And it's like, okay, well, you know.
There is some of that too, where they were like, "We were always on your side." I'm like, "Bull fucking shit! You was always on my side. No way you weren't." Like, dude, I had to I mean,
Nah,
I don't
yeah,
know. I
it's I
pissed
get it.
everybody off really bad when I decided to do I initially went to school for I went to school for film and was going to UNCW for film and
Dude,
really was like into movies.
this is the crazy part that I did not know we were living in Wilmington at the same time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And of all things, we were pretty much in the same apartment complex, probably for a small period of time, or we just missed each other.
Oh my God, yeah, at Campus Edge. I think we talked about this.
Yep, Campus Edge. That
Oh my God.
blew my mind.
Yeah, what a funny time, dude. And it's funny because there was like another group of skate people that would skateboard in the parking lot. And now I'm like, oh, that was Zach Large. That was like, that's my buddy now. But back then he was just like, oh, the other guys that skate all the time that I don't actually know because I was like skating with these other people, whatever, like,
And
but it's, yeah, so
how would you describe Campus Edge to people?
Campus Edge is a weird mix of shit, man, because it's like a bunch of, as far as I could tell, it like doubled as like low income housing and then like student housing, but it's right near UNCW. I mean, it's right near this like pretty decent size like UNC branch college that's just a bunch of young people. And I mean, you probably have like some of the absolute like sketchiest folks I've ever met living at Campus Edge, for sure. To the point where, like I was saying, I mean, like I saw a SWAT team there one time. Like I saw a car on, just like see crazy shit. I remember waking up to like caution tape and like blood everywhere. There's like cops and they're like, "Did you see anything last night?" I'm like, no, like,
Dude,
it's crazy, and it's right there next to the campus. So it's a funny mix of like college kids who usually I think like definitely in my position like I was fully on financial aid. My grandparents, I guess, kind of for a second helped me pay my rent, and then they weren't able to anymore. So I had to work pretty much all the way through through college. So it was just really the only place that I could afford to live, and it was $330 a month at the
it
time.
was so cheap, and it
It
like
was so
included
cheap.
electricity and like uh, water, whatever. It was just like
Yeah.
it was like the best thing ever. I'm like, oh, I can afford to live there.
Oh my God. Yeah. I had, dude, oddly enough, like we had some good times in there, man, because I ended up going to UNCW for art, and the art building is right there, like the place where I took all my drawing classes and all my painting classes and printmaking classes and like all my friends, I like developed like really good relationships with like other art students there, and we just like go over to my Campus Edge apartment when we got out of drawing class and like smoke weed and watch cartoons and bullshit and like drink beer, like go spray paint and like fucking do, like, I don't know. We had some fucking good time. I remember throwing so like weird. I remember for a while I didn't have a neighbor, because it's like connected by a kitchen,
Yep.
right? And you didn't really get to pick your neighbor, which is the weird thing. They just like
Yep.
looking back, it's like you didn't get to pick who the neighbor was on the other side of the kitchen from you. You just like were assigned a neighbor.
It
So like they put me with one guy for a while, and he's like stealing like I had like Adderall or something. He's like stealing my Adderalls, breaking in my fucking room. I was like, what the fuck, Uh, so eventually they just stopped putting people across from me. And I remember having like a party there one time. I swear we must have had like 50 people crammed into that little two apartment stretch. I mean, it was wall to wall. My apartment got destroyed, but it was like so fucking fun. Like I remember we were just like absolutely going ape shit in there and making so much noise. And like that was sort of the thing about it though that was cool. It was like it was already so fucked up that like you could kind of do whatever you wanted. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there was a point where I was selling weed and whatever else out of my apartment there, and I would just have people come. Dude, it was so fucking dumb, dude. And I almost got caught. But I was having people come by all fucking day long, and no one batted an eye because they were just like, "Oh yeah, fucking hand-to-hand drug deals, yeah, that's totally fine," like
It was
just
to be
whatever.
expected at Campus Edge.
Oh, totally, totally. And I mean, they would keep you in the dark. Like I remember definitely the one time that there was like I woke up and there was like blood everywhere on the first floor and like police line tape. And I went to the, I remember going to the landlord dude and being like, "Hey man, what happened in like the lower level of the apartment?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing. I think it was something. I think something happened in that neighborhood over there that was like over the fence, you know?" And
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
"Dude, shut up. No, I'm telling you right now." And he just would not tell me what was going on.
No, yeah, there would always be like police tape or cops showing up, or I mean, I've had, let's say, not so healthy ladies come knock on my door asking if they could help me, and I'm just like, I think I'm okay.
It was, yeah, I had some weird run-ins with folks. I definitely too, I feel like my early tattooing shit and all that stuff is very like congruent in time, because a lot of the people that I was like selling weed to and stuff like that are kind of some of the first people I ever tattooed. Um,
Yeah, if I remember right, you told me that you first started tattooing at Campus Edge, right?
yep, yeah, totally. A dude that I sold, a tattooer actually that I sold weed to, helped me buy a bunch of tattoo gear. I bought some machines off some dude in my class that had tried to do an apprenticeship and it didn't work out for him. It was my buddy Stephen Bodie. He's like a super talented illustrator. He didn't he didn't decide to tattoo, which is probably all for the best because he just is a ripper of a dude who can just draw any damn thing. And I think there's a million great uses for draftsmanship like that, other than tattooing. But he sold me some machines, and then this dude helped me to get all the rest of the gear. And pretty much I just started tattooing like in my apartment, and it was a lot of fix up stuff at first. It was like fixing a lot of old tattoos for people.
So how long? So I don't have any tattoos. Not that I
Mm-hmm.
don't want one. I've been wanting one for years, but I'm very indecisive when it comes to something like that.
It helps you learn decisiveness. I think that's one thing that people don't understand about tattoos. Everyone says like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do something and stick with it." It's like, no, you do it so that you learn to do something and stick with it. It's an interesting, I think there's an interesting there's a lot of stuff that I think tattoos can teach, kind of, and decisiveness is one of them. But anyway, continue.
No, I completely agree. And to your point earlier, where you're like, oh, it's non-essential. That's true, but that doesn't mean that it's not creating a lot of value, right?
Oh man, I've seen tattoos do a tremendous amount of good for people. I think it adds to your self-worth in a way that few other things can. Um, I've seen it do a lot of good for a lot of folks, and I think it can help to, can sort of be a totem for a part of yourself that you're trying to improve, or it's a good, yeah, I don't know. It's a good way it's a good reminder. It's also like weirdly like,
And you also
yeah, I think
become
it
part
teach a
of a
lot.
community as well, right? Because most people don't have a tattoo.
Yeah, that's still overwhelmingly true. For all the tattoos you see, it's still a very small percentage of Americans that are actually tattooed, which is cool. Still, it's still fringe, not like it was, and I'm glad it's not like it was. I'm glad that it's a more inclusive atmosphere these days. I'm all about traditional tattoos, but I also am all about like, uh, I'm all about seeing what the young kids are gonna do too, man. Like I'm all about the new crop of people making like really brave, really cool tattoos, like in all kinds of styles, and all kinds of different communities. Because you are part of a community, but there's several like communities within it. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right. No, I'm always envious when I'm around a couple of people and they start talking about their tattoos. And I'm like, damn, like I can't do that. At least not yet. Not yet.
yeah. Well, there's always time for it. That's the fun thing about it too. It's like because it is not essential. And also I would say I think it's really cool when people don't have tattoos also. I think in order for it to maintain any kind of currency, you know, as like a as like a totemic sort of powerful magic kind of thing, And, you know, it doesn't have to be for everybody, and that's cool. That's totally
No,
cool.
absolutely. And you make a great point. David Fernandez, who was on the podcast a while back, he also lived in Wilmington, also lived, well, that's where me, Large, and Fernandez, David Fernandez, we all like hung out. But he made that same point when we were talking about people that do their passion, to follow their passion, and they're lucky to do it. He was like, you know what? I admire people that do the jobs that people don't want to do. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, I admire that because
Oh my God.
he's
Yeah,
like, as lucky as I
definitely.
am getting to do what I want to do and pursuing what my dreams and goals are, I am thankful that there's somebody at the bank taking my money, right? Because that's a
Oh my
miserable job.
God. I'm so thankful that people are drawing, and especially as like a transplant in New York, there's a real stark sense of it for me because you walk around and I see people doing, dude, I could never do anything but my thing here. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like I I I moved here as a tattooer. I've never done anything else here, and I moved here as like a not. I'm not going to say like established, whatever, but I was financially stable when I moved up here. I had a good opportunity, and I took it. And I've never done anything but tattoo. I think I worked one bartending shift just for fun. um, but anyway, like you know, and fuck, I remember commuting to Park Slope for my first job that I took here, and passing like you know train workers and fucking construction people and plumbers and like everybody is like listening to music, like eating breakfast, like shooting the shit with their homies, like having a good time. And I'm like, damn, dude, I'm so glad that you guys are hyped to like wake up and do this job. And they'd already been at work all day. You know, it's fucking 11:30. I'm going into work for, you know, at 12 o'clock. These dudes have been at work since 5 doing
Yeah.
real work, you know, like
Yeah.
actual hard ass work. And you know, it's just like, dude, I'm such a little bitch ass because I look at it and I'm like, I could never do that here. I could never do that here. If I had to do a job like that, I would live in like Raleigh, North Carolina all day or like outside of it and have like a nice, easy, chill life where I go work on the road crew and then come home and drink beers, you know, like
Yeah.
whatever. That sounds chill, but that does not sound chill to me in New York. That sounds fucking brutal, dude. In the cold of the winter, how it
Oh,
gets here,
dude.
and then how it is in the summer, and like, you know, I tattoo people that work on high-rise buildings and shit, and like do gnarly, like hard jobs where they have to like figure out how to get this crane to get these pieces of steel up 100 fucking stories. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy when you talk to folks like that. Like you're like, dudes are like, oh yeah, like seeing dudes like lose fingers and shit like that. You're like, fuck, man, that's hard. That's cool. That's really that's tough.
So
Like that's
so you've
actual tough guy shit.
oh, absolutely. So you've talked to a million people because you've tattooed a million people. Let me ask you
Yes.
let me ask you this. One, has there ever been, and I'm guessing maybe very early on in your career, where you're like, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that," or "Oh fuck, I fucked up," or something like that?
Uh, you know what's funny is I never used to think of it that way. It's only recent. It's only recently that it's dawned on me like how much pressure tattooing really is, and I think it's
Mm,
because after 10 years, I finally fully take it seriously and understand the gravity of what it is that I'm doing and actually want to take my time and make sure that all the pieces are right. And even, you know,
so
even now, like I like,
I was
I
gonna
don't know.
say, so has anyone actually told you to your face like, "Yo, like what the fuck"?
Um, you know, not really, actually. Let's see. There was one girl. Yeah, there was one girl in Atlanta one time that we did like a little outline of a heart on her shoulder, and she didn't hold still. She kind of like winced and moved into the needle. And so the tattoo was certainly fucked up, but I didn't really feel responsible for it because I told her to hold still. You know, I gave her all the caveat. I gave her all the, you know, the sort of guidelines that you give anybody whose first tattoo it is, so that it turns out good. But you know, there's been a few times where people were like, oh, you know, oh, this, you know, this little piece of it is not to my liking, and it's like, I mean, I understand, and like it's happened. Like there was the time with the heart, and there was like one tiny piece of lettering that a girl was like a little bit not happy with. But you know, she kind of pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and made me do this lettering on her that was like way too small. It was like, you could, it was like, you couldn't even really see it. And me, especially when I'm doing a walk-in shift, I really will try to compromise with people. You know what I mean? Like I'll really make it work for folks. And, we even had at that point, I think we had a form that people had to sign where if I tell you it's a bad idea and you still want me to do it anyway, you have to sign this form that says that I said that to you so that you've been fully appraised of the fact that you are pushing the boundaries of what tattooing will accommodate. Because, obviously, like it's art applied to applied to skin. It's like a melding of art and science, and it's like this hard ass, like it's there's a lot of variables. And I'm pretty sure I made this girl sign the form, and she came back and was a little bit upset with one of the things, but it was exactly what it was exactly what she looked at in the stencil and everything. And it's a handmade thing at the end of the day. Like it's not really for it's not meant to be perfect. It's just not gonna be. Like that's at the end of the day, tattoos are not, we're not printers. We're just people with tools and a skill trying to do the best we can on like a variety of different skin types with all these different, especially when you're doing walk-ins in New York City. It's like, man, the work is as varied as you could possibly imagine. People will come in and get stuff that you can absolutely play to your strengths on, and without a shadow of doubt it's going to turn out awesome. And then the very next tattoo will be somebody who doesn't understand the limitations of it. They've been looking at pictures on Instagram that are of things that have been photoshopped onto people's skin that are not even actually real tattoos. So they bring you this reference that they're convinced is real, and they want you to like try to mimic this look on them. And you're trying to tell them like, this isn't a real tattoo. What you're looking at is something that's been photoshopped. I think because of, there's a lot of things that create expectation, but I think the internet and, like someone out there can probably do lettering with a single needle that's like can only be viewed with a microscope or whatever. But like I don't care to do that kind of work necessarily. Maybe they can do it perfectly, and like that's so sick and good for them. And the people that want that should certainly seek that person out. But like you'll have people just show up and be like, "Do this on me," and I'm like, well,
that's kind of crazy, because that's the other thing is whenever I do get a tattoo, I want to do my research, right? Like, all right, is this possible? Is there an artist that specializes in something like this? I don't know if I could ever just find a random tattoo shop and be like, hey man, here's what I want. Go at it.
It's not really the thing to do ultimately. I mean, definitely I am good at walk-ins. I give a fuck. And I give a fuck about stuff that's not even necessarily things that are my style or I think are cool. But like what I think is cool is not the only thing that's cool. And I try to keep that in mind. And especially if I'm providing a service and I do a lot less walk-ins these days. I've taken a new job and I'm pretty much appointment only now. So luckily, most of the time I can play to my, and I have a variety, pretty varied skill sets. Like I can use like pretty much any size needle. Like I pride myself on being fairly versatile, which I think has kind of bitten me in the ass in a sense, but also like, whatever, I'm not going to think about it too hard. I'm just going to like keep doing what I'm doing.
Is there a name for like the type of style that you prefer or like mainly focus on?
I do traditional tattoos, like sort of in the sense that like what I can play to my strengths on the most is like stuff with a decently bold outline, black shading, and color if people want it. People get a lot more color in the South, in my experience, although I'm starting to do more up here. But I would say I do traditional tattoos, but I always kind of say like, if I can outline it, I can do some version of it.
Right.
As long as I can put an outline on it, as long as I can make it into an illustration, I can do some version of something for somebody. And I stick by that. Like, I feel like a lot of people specialize a little more than I do. I don't really I do traditional, like mostly, but pretty much if somebody has a cool idea and I think I can make it happen, I'll do it for them. I'm pretty unpretentious about it. I would like to think,
No, but I mean, you're passionate about it and you understand people, right? and you kind of say, hey, I'm going to do my best. And I think people notice it and appreciate it.
I think so too. And I tell people if I feel like I'm entering some realm of the art that I'm like not comfortable with, or I'm like outside of my skill set, or outside of like what I can do well, I'll let them know that they should seek out a different artist. You know what I mean? Like I think yeah, I think you got to be honest about that. But like, if I if I think I can do it and it's a decent amount of stuff, I like a lot of different kinds of tattooing. I mean, I think so much of it is like so cool. So it's been hard for me to like find a find a thing and do only that, which I think is, especially in the age of Instagram, become like really prevalent. Is people like they pick one thing and they pick a lane and they do like this kind of work only, and that's the only kind of work that shows up on their Instagram. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it all looks cohesive, it all goes together. And those are ultimately, I think, the tattooers that end up being really successful on that platform are like when it all goes together really nicely. Where when you look at my Instagram, it's kind of all over the place. But I kind of decided I'm not really going to tattoo like with Instagram in mind only. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
It's
and I think I think that that's definitely a mind shift in slightly younger people
I think so
where
too.
they're not thinking about, oh, let me just, do a good job and let me just do what I like and make everyone happy. It's more what will look good on social media.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. And I think that that's why I think that because I have an open mind and I'm not that concerned about how the feed looks. I am able to take on like a lot of different projects because I keep a pretty open mind about my work. You know what I mean? And I don't really care too much to have like a zillion followers or anything like that. Like, I mean, I think if it made money and got more people in the door to get cool tattoos, like, yeah, totally, that would be awesome. But also, uh, like I don't think that I could comfortably get more work done than I do now. I mean, I'm booked, let's say a month or two out most of the time, and I'm pretty much operating at capacity. I do two a day, 5 days a week, or 4 days a week. And it's, I'm tired by the end of the week. So I don't even know that I could fit that. If it did bring in more work, I don't know that I could get to it in a reasonable
Right.
amount of time, even. So, I'm not going to worry about the feed. I'm not going to worry about if it all looks like it goes together. But I did have someone just last week cancel their appointment with me because, they said that the last like handful of things that I posted on my Instagram, didn't really match the style of what we had talked about. And she sent me even like a few different things from my own Instagram. And it's like, well, of course, if I did it then, you see that photo of it back then. So, like, of course, if you like that style, I can do that style on you. It's just that these other 10 people since that picture have asked me for this and this and this.
Right.
And
Because
they
yeah.
wanted this inquiry. So it's like, and I've been accommodating that. So, like, now these tattoos look different. And now this person's not feeling it. And they feel like I'm going to not give them what they want just based on what my last few posts have been. And I think that's really like sort of myopic. Like that's just very narrow minded in my book. It's like you can't see that like you're asking me for a thing, you're telling me stylistically kind of how you want it. Okay, cool. Like that can totally happen. Meanwhile, A, B, C, and D are going to go on, and don't you worry about that because that is for those people that have sent me emails asking for certain stuff that like they want, and sending me other different tattoos from my feed that like they like.
No, yeah, and that's yeah, I completely get that because there are times where I have a lot of women on the podcast, and it's like, okay, well, is a guy gonna think that I only do, host women on the
People
podcast?
get that way. People so get that way. And it's like, we use your brain
Right.
for 2 fucking seconds and understand that like things are not like it's not like a static universe. Like, come the fuck
Exactly.
on, like, oh, it's a little bit and like I said, that's sort of why I say, like, in a sense, the variety of work and the fact that I try to be versatile has sort of bit me in the ass a little bit sometimes because of shit like that, where it's like, and And it's like you just want to like shake the public and be like, "That's not the fuck how it is. Come the fuck on." You like, I just like
Well, I
scream into
mean,
the void. But like,
people don't appreciate dynamicism, if that's a word.
they're
Um,
afraid of, well, they're afraid that they're not going to get the thing that they want. And I understand that, but it's like, don't operate out of, I don't know, don't operate out of fear. And like,
right, right.
don't look at one thing and be like, oh shit. Like, I don't know, one thing, one day. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's an ever changing universe. Like that's literally the only constant thing that you have is change.
No, yeah, and that kind of, sort of, in a way, kind of ties back into the beginning of the conversation where, here in New York, you meet a million kinds of people, but it's hard to meet those just, hey, they're just themselves. They're not looking for
Yep.
anything. They're kind of understanding of the universe and the world and how everything is different. And when you meet those people, it's like, oh shit, that's good people. But
Yep.
you don't meet a lot of them.
Tolerant, tolerant, but unafraid. I think um,
Understanding.
understanding. Yeah, totally. I think that. Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, there's a real. Well, man. I mean, it's always been difficult to sort of be as be as water flowing over rocks or whatever the old adage is to like try to go with the flow kind of thing. It's always been kind of hard to do that in New York, but now I think post COVID it's like really hard for I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like it's really hard for people to get out of that like real tight, balled up, stressed out
Yeah.
like, oh, everyone's out to get me kind of thing. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of gotten a little bit, people are less trusting than they've ever been. And
Yes. Yes.
I've noticed it in my clients where people are like very concerned that they're not going to get the thing that they want. And I'm like, yo, I've done it like 1,000 times. Like I
Right.
promise you it'll turn out so good. You know what I mean? But like I've seen a lot more worry in people post COVID, I think, and a greater willingness to like tell you how freaked out they are, which I always tell people, you're not at a hospital and you're not at like a sheriff's office. Like this is just supposed to be fun. That's the
Right. Like,
only reason
relax.
we're here is to like have a good time, really. So, you know,
No, it is a weird world that we live in, and it's only getting weirder. And yeah, I mean, the whole social media mindset, and just, I don't know. But
yeah,
but it's not all bad, right? You still meet great people out there, a lot of good
truly.
in the world. I mean, there's no reason to just kind of get down, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I think honestly like shit is kind of in a lot of ways the best it's ever been, but there's more exposure, right? So the problems that we do have are amplified and
Yep. Yep.
a lot of our media sort of thrives on this like clickbait sort of like
Yep.
fear-based money sort of like capitalistic version of like how to present the news. So it's presented as all this catastrophe, which there is some bad shit going on for sure. But like, you look at crime and you look at like the murder rate, it's kind of like some of the best it's been, like really like crazy shit has always happened. And honestly, like, especially if you want to talk about like America, really, yes, shit has been like pretty much of a weird police state since 9/11, but it really was kind of like that like after World War II. Like it's if you're in our age bracket and you're just starting to freak out about the surveillance state and corporations and the military industrial complex, it's like, well, it's kind of been happening like since the fucking late 40s. So it was shit was going badly long before us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have sort of gotten like a real wake up call in the last few years of realizing like, oh shit, like whoa, it's like yeah, like oh shit, whoa, but like after Eisenhower, whoa shit, oh no, like that after J. Edgar Hoover and the CIA and all that, like you could like our grandparents had good reason to freak out about these things. So like everyone's just always kind of freaking out about that stuff. And shit is a little more amplified because of our phones and because of social media and all that. But you can't lose hope and you can't fucking worry about all that. You can't try to
Yep.
worry about all that shit
Yep.
at once. And I I have I've done this. I've decided like in the last like few years where I kind of do this thing where I call it like I kicked out the middle, right? So I only care about the endless expanse of the universe and chaos and the eons of time, or the drawing or the tattoo or the movie I'm watching or like the thing I'm doing right now. And I don't
Mm,
think about any of that shit in the middle, dude. I'm like the politics, the economy. I keep up with it to a nominal degree because I want to be informed.
right,
But
right.
I cannot, absolutely cannot be worrying about like what our like weird pro wrestling model of politics is bringing to this country. And you've got these two fervent sides that pay like super close attention to it that are like ready to go to war with each other. And I'm kind of like, oh fuck, like I hope everybody doesn't take this shit too seriously because it's literally most of it is just up for a distraction. You know what I mean? It's like a
Correct. They're
it's a
just
fucking
pinning
it's a
the
yes.
extremes against each other.
It's a literal psyop
Yep.
because our news organizations are like run by ex-intelligence people. It's literally it's a psyop, so much of it. And so you get to the point where you're like, I understand that capitalism is fucked up, but am I going to sit around and bemoan it and try to fight it, or am I just going to find my place within it? For me, I am just going to find my place within it and hope to do well and hope to be
Right.
happy. And that's I have to hang on to my own hope. You know, like you have to make your own sense of hope, and especially in these days. And I think you see a lot of people getting way bogged down with the way things are, but really the way things are has kind of always been the way things are for us. You know, I was born in 87. You know, uh,
Damn, you're
I
younger
think
than
it's
me?
I think it's always been kind of a, is that true?
Yeah, you are.
No shit. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's so funny. Yeah, I was born in 87. You know, so like for us growing up, like we're the last group of people to remember when there was no internet. That's funny. Isn't
Right.
that funny? You
That's
ever think about
scary.
that? Isn't that fucking crazy? Because I remember when my family got a computer, my mom was just playing Alone in the Dark, like steady, just like playing old computer games and like so psyched on them. And then like the internet came along and we were just like, oh, fucking, this is like weird, nerdy fun. And then now it's like kind of gotten like a little sour, but I sort of think that like I'm hopeful that we'll like figure it out before the whole thing spirals into a like Skynet type situation. But also, fuck it, like whatever. I don't know.
Nah, yeah. I mean,
I don't have control over it, so I'm not going to sit around and worry about it too much. I'm just going to
kind of
try to
to
draw.
something similar to you said earlier, it's you if you kick out or if you remember the history of mankind, it's literally rinse and repeat. You get these people who are fighting for power, who want power, who do this, and then they get people to get go at each other just so they can stay in power. And it's
Oh
just
yeah.
today it's just so efficient with the media and social media and the internet and everything else that the tools are so good today that I don't know, the people in Britain could have like wished they had it been when they were fighting the Irish or whatever, right? Like they
Oh my god,
wish
yeah,
they
when they
could
were
have
like
that.
trying to subjugate the entire fucking world. Like I always think about Britain in a sense because I think about America being such a young country. You know, you think about it and you're like, man, like Britain eventually had to chill out. Britain eventually got kicked out of every province that they were attempting to colonize and subjugate completely and turn into their, turn into their colony and turn into their, turn the people into their workers. And eventually they just like, eventually, the whole thing fell apart. But like they didn't have nukes back then. You know what I mean? America is in this place where now we're going to have to chill out. You know, we've been around for fucking, we've been around for like 300 plus years, 400 plus years, whatever, like as a colony, maybe four. And it's like, we're getting to the point where our resources are stretched thin. We got a lot of pissed off people at home. It's kind of time to stop doing these weird proxy wars in the name of bringing independence to people when really what we're trying to do is collect their resources. And that's very apparent now. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
so apparent what we're doing now. Like Western every westernized military has these like branches that their whole job is just to destabilize other countries and
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of collect their resources. In every Western country, European and America, they all have their version of these parts of the military that are trying to do that. And it's getting to the point where everybody's going to have to stop doing that shit and worry about their own people, because we're getting past all that. The exchange of information is such that, like, people know when you're trying to do some weird fucked up shit to them, and you can't try to sell it to the American people anymore as like, we're bringing freedom to Afghanistan. No, the fuck you're not. You're weirdly trying to like protect these poppy fields so that we can like collect all this opium to like use in pharmaceuticals. It's shit like that. Like it's like or oil or like what have you, like
Yeah.
uh I don't know how I got down this like rabbit hole of
No, you're
stuff like that.
good, but I
But
mean, you're right.
nowadays we have nuclear weapons, which begs the question, like, will America be able to chill out without destroying the entire fucking world? Are we gonna allow ourselves to chill out? Can we start using our resources here at home instead of sending tax dollars all over the fucking world to drone strike people for no fucking reason other than a little bit of extra cash for the dudes up top? people
No.
know it's people know now what's up. People know what's going on, and have since the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
you
And that's
know
the problem, right? We've known for so long and we've continuously done it. It's literally an American disease that we have where we just kind of forget about the past a little bit. And like, yeah, right now we
Yeah.
we ended Afghanistan and all that good stuff. And everyone's like, yeah, cool, no more stupid proxy wars, but man, give it like
Well,
5, 10 years, and
give it
something else
five,
is
ten
gonna
years.
something's gonna happen where we're
Uh,
somewhere else, or we're already somewhere
well,
else under a disguise, right?
it's true, and the thing is, like, I'm reading articles, and it's like Northrop Grumman is already making tanks to operate in. You can read this stuff on the news now. You can just read it on the news. It's like Northrop Grumman and these other weapons manufacturing companies are making tanks to operate in Asia, and be guaranteed if they're building them, they are gonna fucking use them or sell them to
Yeah.
somebody who can use them. And that's fucking scary because it's created this impetus for another war. And you're like, are we like gearing up to go to war with China, which is literally the dumbest thing of all time, and there's no fucking reason for it at all, when we have all the resources we need here.
It's
You
it's it,
and
it's literally humankind,
Yeah.
and it's game theory, right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
better off, trying to make peace, or are you better off getting ready for war because you don't know if the other side's getting ready for war?
Well, also, there's that, and I feel like America too, with all the sort of, with all the social media companies selling the data, it's almost like that camera, like almost like the the lens that people are using to view these places where they can go in and get resources and like, mine, like the surveillance is sort of turning inward on the American people a little bit. You know what I mean? Where it's like now it's getting to the point where like you kind of get the feeling that they're going to start using all that military gear and all that budget stuff on us because they got to use the budget. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very complicated. It's
Hopefully, we
very
don't bomb the entire universe while we like wait to chill the fuck out and hopefully have a more harmonious existence with ourselves and the world that we are in.
This is why
You know?
everybody should just trip on acid. Have you done acid? And
Definitely.
and that stuff, I'm telling you, if everybody in the world just took acid, everyone would be like, okay, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
I I think it removes you for a second. It sort of removes you from all the constructs of the things that are normally so important to you. Like oh my god, like, yeah, and all the middle stuff. It
Yeah.
sort of is. It's very helpful. I would say acid is like helpful to remove the middle, which is really, and ultimately for me, I mean, there was a time in my life where all I did was stress out about the middle,
Mm.
and I couldn't do it anymore. And I want to remain I remain progressive and socially conscious and very sympathetic and very empathetic to really everybody's, within reason, everybody's sort of plight,
Yeah, I mean,
but
look, this is
I can't absorb all that stress all the time.
right.
Uh, and
And that's what
I did what I had to do to be happy.
and that's what I try to tell some people. I've literally had people ask me, "Hey, am I a bad person because I don't really understand all of the struggles that like, Hispanics are going through? Am I a bad person because I don't understand, the struggles, every struggle of the black person or blah blah blah?" And it's like, "No. It's impossible for you to sit there and just dwell on all of the struggles going all around the world, right? Like you can't. You can't. You'll get
Well,
stressed
you
out and
end
you'll
up with
die."
it. It's called empathy exhaustion. You know what I mean? It is an actual thing. It's like you spend all your emotional uh, sort of mana, if you will, other places but yourself and those that are actually closest to you. So I think that for me, like I do the most good where in the small sphere that I can, and that's the best I can do. And that's where my empathetic and emotional mana, as it, whatever, like gets spent, or as far as best as I can do it, I try to do that.
Yeah, I try to make the right decisions. I don't, as much as I have like a love hate relationship with capitalism, but it's like, all right, if you do capitalism very responsibly and under the right rules and under all of that good stuff, then it can thrive, right? But sometimes people take advantage of the capitalism,
Yeah.
and then everything goes to shit, kind of like right now. Like how many people have to take out student loans when in reality there's so much money out there that none of us have to take out student loans.
And not to mention, like we're having shortages of certain medical fields. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
I only know this because my grandfather was a urologist. He's now retired, he's still living. They're trying to call an 86-year-old man back into work to assist on surgeries because there's no fucking urologists anymore. Meanwhile, it is $1 million. It is 800 grand to become a urologist at like a decent school. So
Right.
what the fuck? Where the fuck? Why
Yeah.
is it like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's fix shit like that. Like it's like such an obvious thing. Like I don't know, but we're so slow to change because America can only change as quickly as the least progressive of us will let it happen, and
Yes. Yes.
so that is that ultimately a huge struggle. And I think that like a lot of people in our generation kind of thought like, oh, as soon as the old guard dies off, like it'll just be, progressives, and it'll just be like good times and we'll move forward in science and shit. But what we found is like the new crop of dummies is like kind of worse than the old one. They're like more fervent and more willing to embrace just any dumb shit that comes out.
No,
It's comical, man. It's like
I
you
get
can't.
it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like
I
I don't know.
completely get it, man.
A love
And
hate
it's
relationship, though. I understand that fully. A love hate relationship with capitalism.
oh
I'm
yeah.
absolutely in agreement on that. Like, I mean, I bought. I'm trying to get all my. I'm trying to get my shit together, and it's like you buying stocks. It's like, what stocks am I buying? I'm buying Apple and Google and Amazon and fucking oil companies, unfortunately, because it's always going to go up. It's like there's kind of not there's no place for idealism and that kind of. And I invested in a bunch of other shit too. I invested in a bunch of green energy, but you know what happened to all that money? It's all gone. all the oil company stocks are thriving. Meanwhile, all the good shit, all the weed stock I bought is tanked out. It's fucking down 65%. All the stuff that I believe in, like with all the stuff that my idealistic self believes in, is just
Right.
and all the stuff that's like evil as fuck. I'm like, I just need to buy stock in Northrop Grumman,
No, and I
even though I
think
don't agree with any of this shit. It's
but
like,
that's part of what you said, right? You kick the middle out. Like forget about this and that. Where are we today? What is real? What do humans need? What are the requirements? And that's where capitalism is really well, right? Like okay, if there's a demand for whatever it is, then the market should, the way it works, compensate to create that need and to satisfy that need. So in that sense, yeah, I'm all for it, right? You just can't let people just go in circles, go around the laws and cheat their way through
Yeah,
things and then not pay taxes and then
you
and
kind
then
of gotta.
not give back to the community and all this other stuff. It's like wait. That part we need to get rid of, right? If we can get rid of all those loopholes, then we're all sitting pretty. We're
I
all
think
sitting
the
pretty.
I think absolutely that's true. I mean, we've been trying the like trickle down economic sort of method since Reagan, and it's very clear that it doesn't really it
It's
doesn't
just
really
not
work. People
realistic.
just it's not realistic. People hoard cash at the top, and
Yep.
uh it's I mean, it is, I guess they're right to do that, although you just think at a certain point you're like, well, if you could never spend all of it, then maybe it's time to give some back just
Especially
out of
when you
your
have children in America starving. Children in
right.
America who can't go to college because they just have no money.
Well, in
Like
the
it's
meantime,
just
they tax the shit out of the middle class, but where do they spend it? They spend it bombing other countries. They spend it sending fucking money to like all over the world that like doesn't even really need it. Like when people here need it, and they siphon this money from the middle class, and then they spend it elsewhere when really it needs to be spent here, or they use it to bail out these giant corporations where it's like, whoa, where's the bailout for the poor people that really need it, who literally had taxes taken right out of their paycheck? They never saw the fucking dime. They have to work two jobs. Like, where's their bailout? There's no bailout for that, but there's a bailout for the fucking airline. Like, come on, man. Like it's capitalism, but it's socialism for the very wealthy. You know what I mean?
right,
Like that's
right.
who gets to enjoy socialism in
Yep,
America,
yep,
is the people who don't really need it,
yep,
is the people who already got the money. They enjoy the breaks while
yep.
everybody else sort of gets fucked on taxes. I mean, and you're starting to see countries freak out about taxes, man. Colombia, most recently, Colombia has started to be like, fuck this shit. You're taking all of our fucking money. You're giving it all to the corporations. We're not doing this shit anymore. Fuck you. We're taking to the streets, And I think I don't know. America is just, I think now that the garbage can has kind of been lifted and people are seeing more where their tax dollars are going, because it's not going to infrastructure. It's not going to the roads. It seems to be going to lobbyists,
No,
like,
I remember watching CNBC and one of the I don't know, House representatives, I believe a Republican was like, yeah, we're not going to pass this infrastructure bill because it's got a lot of junk in there. And they were like, oh, like what? And they were like, well, they're trying to spend money on like healthcare and like all these things. That's not infrastructure. And I'm like, wait a minute. So what you're saying is you're anti healthcare? Is that what you're saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, for somebody to say, oh, you're putting healthcare spending in an infrastructure bill? No, we can't do that. It's like, well, hold on. Will it help people? Because if it will,
right.
then maybe you should consider it. I don't know.
Exactly. And how is healthcare not? Healthcare is nothing if not an infrastructure thing. It's like it's being propped up by these weird.
Well, that healthcare infrastructure was more than fucking broken during COVID.
Oh yeah.
So if
Oh
anything,
my
yeah, we
god.
need to spend more in healthcare. I don't know.
Fuck yeah. Absolutely. It's that whole thing. It's just but it's like you said, it will hopefully we find our place in it, and hopefully we find peace with that place within it, because man, I'm a tattooer. I'm just here for a good time. I'm like, ultimately I'm just here to have I
Dude,
decided a long time ago that like I want an easy life. I want to have fun. I like to like make tattoos on people and like get drunk with my friends and go to shows. And that's pretty much what I know about. You know what I mean?
I
I stay informed, but I can't really worry about the stuff too much. I just try to have a good time. That's mainly where my efforts get spent.
I 1000% agree with you. I am not here to do anything other than to enjoy my life, enjoy the ones that I love, help whoever I can, and
Yep.
ultimately just have a good time, right? Like
Yeah.
you and I are very lucky. There are trillions and gazillions and bazillions of atoms and molecules out there, and yet some way, somehow, you were born and I was
That's
born.
another thing I think about all the time. And I think that's another thing that acid can sometimes help with, is the fucking like expansive nature of the universe, right? And how fucking improbable it is that like any of this even exists.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
us sitting here having this
Not only
conversation
that,
right
but
now. Like,
we get to live on a day where I can talk to you when you're in Brooklyn and I'm in Long Island City. We don't even have to
yep.
look at each other. We don't even have
Oh
to do
my
anything. We
God.
can just get on our phone, take a picture, take a video, call each other. Guess what? I got clean water, running toilet.
I can,
Man,
yo,
life is
totally.
so good.
The fact that I can listen to, I was thinking about this recently too. It's like the fact that I can listen to any song I want now,
Right.
pull out a phone and listen
Yep.
to, and that's huge for me. Watch any movie I want. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yep.
Like, like and they sound like such sort of like simple things, but like, oh my God, man, if you told me that when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's like what heaven's like. You just get to watch and you don't even have to buy CDs anymore. Like, holy shit, that's crazy, like,
No, and we're so fortunate because not only were we created in the universe of full of nothing, or maybe it's full of stuff that we just don't know about, we were born in an area where we can actually enjoy this, right? Because right now
yeah,
there are
dude.
people on the other side of the planet who are suffering.
Oh, it's true. Oh, I
And
mean, there's people, and honestly, there's the thing that kills me is like not only just that, well, like that sucks, but there's people that are like in our bracket that don't like there's people that are like that as lucky as we are, but don't see it that way and walk around like hopeless and bummed out and so depressed. And it's like, I mean, and we all have our moments, right? Like I'm
yep,
not
yep,
dogging on that, but
yep,
we're fortunate to even recognize that we have those things because a lot of people have those things and have no appreciation for them.
yep.
You know what I mean? But I think it takes a certain emotional intelligence to be able to be like, yeah, shit's fucked up, but I'm going to try to find the thing that I can appreciate about my life and understand that I'm lucky in the grand scheme of things and try to keep everything in perspective, like it's hard to do, man. It's
It
way hard
is.
to do.
It
And
is
I think
because
people,
we, at the end of the day, whether you're a tattooer or a banker or a janitor, at the end of the day, you got to do a job, right? You're doing something,
yeah,
and you become responsible, and you become, you got to pay bills, and you got to, make sure whoever you're dating or who you're married to or your children, you're responsible to them, and you're making sure that your parents are okay, and you're making sure all these other things. And yeah, it is very easy to lose track of just how lucky and how much you should appreciate the moment.
I was listening actually to another one of your podcasts and you were interviewing this comedian guy and he was talking about like how mostly we have it good these days. Like in compared like crime wise, like compared to like the early 90s or like the 70s in New York, like how gnarly it used to be. It's like
Mm-hmm.
actually in fact much safer, even though like plenty of news outlets would try to convince you that it's the most dangerous it's ever been.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
holy shit, like murder rate, like whatever.
Everything's on fire.
Yeah, where like in actuality, it's like, damn, shit's going pretty fucking good actually. If you don't let if you don't let if you don't let that stuff in that much, I think that's so key.
Absolutely, man. Well, Shay, I honestly appreciate you and taking the time to just kind of talk to me about everything.
Truly,
And
I
you're
really
incredibly
appreciate.
talented, man.
Bro, thank you so much. I really appreciate you including me. This has been super fun, man. Like I always like I love talking. Like I always like feel like I'm like wearing people out a lot of times. Like if I'm at work or like I'm just like talking some poor client's ear off about some shit, and I'm like, but like no, I this has been a blast. We definitely got to get up and like hang out sometime soon. If you're like going to shows or anything like that, let me
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely. I think I sent you my number. I'm gonna post your Instagram when I post the episode, if that's
Sick.
cool
I'm
with
gonna
you.
certainly share it, dude. I'm stoked on it, and it's I haven't listened to a couple of episodes now. Like I'm, it's a cool, it's like a real varied thing. It's
No,
like
yeah, it's hey
super
man,
interesting.
we're all different, different perspective, different everything, right? And it's not my job to tell anyone that they're right or wrong. It's more of a
Really,
hey, I agree or maybe I disagree, but either way, you're eating food and drinking water and shitting in the toilet just like me, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm better or worse off or whatever, right? We're all in this together, and I just want to explore as much as I can while I'm alive.
totally. Totally. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. You know, I'm always interested to hear what people have to say. So, but
I
yeah,
again, man, thank you so much for making the time, and I will talk to you soon.
yeah, certainly, dude. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day, buddy. And again, thanks for including me.